Okay everyone, I'm going to start on this minnow here, and I'm going to try and make this as quick as possible. I showed you how to make this tail from a standard paracord, and I've already tied it in from the video that I used to show you how the paracord is made, which will be there will be a link to that video. If you're seeing this for the first time, there will be a link to the video on how to make the paracord without it fraying on the back at the end of this video, and you can click on it to go on into the instructional, which will also have a link. You can select which one at the end of this video. You can select the link to show you how to do the paracord, or you can click the link to show you how to take the Bonnnie cord and make your own EP fibers. You might be quite surprised on how easy it is to make that strand of fibers right there that we're going to use to tie in to our minnow here. So all I'm going to do is just take little clumps about like this and get it started on the fly and wrap it in and pull it back just like that. There's one side. And then I'll grab another clump. It's good if you can get it to be uniform all the way around, but I wouldn't worry about it too much, because what you're going to do eventually is cut out. That is a little bit too much right there. You got to remember, when you pull out a little, you may think, well, that's not going to be enough. Well, actually it is, because you're going to double it back over top of itself. And be careful with your line, your thread right there, because you could the hook point could cut it, and that'll kind of ruin your day for that one particular fly. So there's that. And what I'm going to do here is, once I get those into place, I'm going to just wrap them in nice and tight, and then I'm going to bring my thread, if you can see it here, I'm going to bring my thread about 1/8 of an inch or so in front of the threads that tie in the fibers on the hook. And because when we're done with this, what's going to happen is the fibers are going to hide these little gaps in each succession until you get up to the eye hook, where you're going to finish it off and then put the eyes on. Well, actually, before you put the eyes on, we'll trim it out, and then once that's done, we'll put the eyes on, and I'll show you how I do that as well. I don't use super glue. So we'll go ahead and take another strand, and we'll take that and do the same procedure all the way around. Now, when you put it on, what you're going to want to do is to try and get it to flatten out on top a little bit, so that essentially the materials are going to wrap around that gap that you're tying behind on each wrap. You can see right there. You can see right there that this one has nice uniform ability to it, and this side here has nice uniform that's covering up that gap. So we did that side. We're going to do this side. Remember, we don't have to grab a whole lot of fiber, because it's doubling back on itself. Lay it down, use your thumb to kind of mash it down, and then do a soft wrap to get it into place, and then cinch it in. All right, so now we're going to repeat that on those two wraps right there. We're going to repeat that all the way to the front of the eye here. Okay. Once we tie in our last strand, I want to put in a nice little head by just wrapping the crap out of the front of this thing to make a uniform looking nice little cone head right there. Once I have that in place, I can take my whip finisher and then just wrap the crap out of that so that it all locks into place. Okay, so once we get to that point there, cut our thread, and clears a spot out here to make a nice little mess, and pull the really rat infested looking fly off of the vise. Actually, what I'm going to do here is before I burn, because those things will burn back and make a great big knot, but I don't want. So there's a little bit of a beading effect that I get by melting the tips of these things. I just want to get them down as far as I can and then just hit it. And then that way that takes all those strands that are sticking out the front there and tames them. Alright, so now once I get to this point here, I'm going to want to start trimming my fibers back into the shape of a minnow. Now, you know, if you do this, you may not get the exact shape you want the first time, and you may not get it every time. But I'm going to tell you what, it's no big deal, because no matter what you do here, this thing will still catch fish. Now, what I want to do is, actually, I'm not going to use my good scissors. I'm going to use these cheaper ones, because I don't want to accidentally hit the bend of the hook back there and ruin my good scissors. So I don't know if you can see it or not, but through the fibers here I can see where the hook bend is. So I'm going to lay my cutter, my scissors, right on the eye of the hook and try to get the tip right where the bend of the hook is, and make my cut just like that. And then as I make my cuts, I'll pull off the fibers. Okay. Now, once I get to that point, I'm going to want to take my tail and get it out of the way so that I don't accidentally cut it. So I'm going to pull it right back to the front again, and then just start making my taper cuts towards the back. Once I get that, I want to be trimming up some more back there, but actually what you can do is take your felting tool and pull the loose fibers out to see where you are. Okay, still a pretty bushy looking fly there. Actually, I believe I can go to my better scissors now, which I think I've got, and I use my fingers to control the depth of my cut, as you can see right there. And then that way I can bring my scissors in and then bring it down and make a cut. And it's a more controlled cut by doing it that way. And then I can actually bring it up and go, and as I cut, I'll kind of turn it in. And again, once you start doing that and you get towards the back, you want to move your tail out of the way so you don't accidentally cut it. And then just like that. This is a learning process. I'm not even sure that I have it perfected yet. But it's something that you do, and over time you'll get better at it, and you'll have fun catching fish with these things. I mean, they really are a nice fly. I think this one here is going to be a little bit better, because as I said, as you do them, you'll get better at it. And I don't actually, what I'm going to try and do is get this material to not cut off completely back by the back side of the hook. I want a little bit of material to go towards the tail to give that really nice taper to blend into the tail instead of having the tail drop off like this one here. I mean, this is good and it's going to catch fish, but you can see what I'm talking about here. I don't want these fibers to end here. I want them to end about halfway down that paracord, and I think that might give it a little bit better a shape. So I think I've got the top right where I want it there. The top is where I want it. The only thing I have to do now is get this bottom part tapered the way I want it. So let's go ahead and do some more trimming here. Let's pull that out of the way, because again, I don't want to accidentally cut it. That would kind of ruin the day on this fly. Okay, there we go. Still just a little bit more than I want right there in the back. So let's go ahead and pull this down and taper that a little bit. Felting tool. It's the brush side here. I can brush it out. Okay. Oh, there we go. Now, if anyone's concerned about this gap in here, you got to remember that this is just loose material, and that gap is actually that's still a pretty good gap in there. But if you are not happy with it, then it's a matter of just taking it, pinching it like so to get the fibers to lay down and to bunch up, so that you can take it and trim it down so that it's closer to the hook and giving you a wider gap. There you go. There you go. That is a pretty nice minnow. I'm not going to get into actually collaring it, because you can do it however you want to do it. There's a lot of good videos out there that show you how to collar the flies with marking pins. You don't have to use an airbrush or Copic system. You can just, let's do it a little bit more right there. There we go. You can just take regular Sharpies. Now I'm using a Copic pen here, but you can just take your regular marker and, you know, just mark it up however you want. And then to get, I think you always want the tops of your fly to be a little darker than down along the edges, and you kind of concentrate it in, pushing down a little bit. But then as you want that taper back, then just kind of hit it lightly, like so, and just hitting just some of the fibers that are sticking up the highest, and that's going to give you that graying effect that you're getting right there. And then go from the fat side to your point side and lay in your lines to give it a little bit of life there. Do the same thing on this side. There we go. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and put the eyes on this to show you what I'm talking about with the eyes. So I guess I am finishing it out. Got the collar on it and everything. Now the eyes, the eyes that I use, I've made myself and cut them off of a Silhouette Cameo craft cutter. And this was really cheap. This set of eyes here probably cost me about 2 cents. Doesn't really cost hardly anything at all. And then I'll just take my pupils and lay them on top of the iris part. And once I get those laid into place, then I'll take the entire eye and put it on top. And I do not super glue them in, because I'll show you how I do that, how I lock them in here in a second. This will actually allow me to get them positioned as well without having to worry about getting super glue all over my hands. And check it to see if it's pretty uniform on each side, which it looks like it is. And then I take my, I have two different UV finishes here. One's thick, one's thin. This would be mostly for larger flies, the UV thick, and to build up a really big body. But when you're dealing with smaller flies like this one here, you can just use the UV thin, and got a little bit of a straight fiber on there. I don't know if I can get it or not without knocking my eye off. See if I can do this without burning it off. There we go. All right. Okay, so I got the eyes on there, got them into place. And now all I'm going to do is just put a bead of UV finish on top. Oh, doggone it. Okay, let's get this over here. There we go. Okay. Is just put a bead on top of the two eyes, between the two eyes on top, and then what that's going to do is it's going to grab both of those eyes. You might kind of come over the side a little bit on both sides with a little overflow. Let that material go down, not too far though, and then hit it with your UV light. You only have to do this for a couple seconds, especially if you have one of the lights that have two batteries in it. A one battery light, you might have to hold it there a little bit longer. And then flip it up. This is why a rotary vise is a good vise. Mine happens to be a Renzetti Traveler. People argue about vices all the time, is which one's best. The one that's best is the one that you use and like. I really don't want to promote any one particular vice. They're all good. They really are. Most of them are anyway. Most of your mid-price vices are in the $150 to $200 range. Okay, so let's go ahead and dab this up. Now we're going to put it up a little bit high here, because again, what's going to happen is it's going to flow down around those eyes, and then this is where the rotary vise comes in. Now what's happening here is that thin UV, as I rotate the vise, the thin UV is making a really nice wrap around both eyes to lock it in, and making a even coating all the way around. You only have to spin the vise for a couple seconds, and then finish it off by holding your light for as long as you need to finish it off, and then you're done. You've got yourself a little minnow that will definitely catch you some fish out there. I know it'll catch smallmouth bass and largemouth bass, and maybe even a bluegill, big one. I don't know anything about trout. I don't really care about trout. I mean, I love that people catch them. I think they're a beautiful fish, but I live in a region where it's smallmouth. There's a trout fishery in Ohio, but the closest one is about a little over 2 hours away from me. And I can drive 5 minutes right over here to the North Fork Creek in my area and catch some really nice smallmouth all day long, especially on a pattern like this. Anyway, this is Mike. Until the next video, we'll catch you later.